What exactly is the threat of Iran? That's the fundamental question. The deal does constrain what's called the Iranian threat, but what exactly is the threat? It's interesting that that question isn't raised, although actually it is raised.
But there is a nuclear nonproliferation treaty that Iran is a party to. Many believe Iran had violated that.
Iran is a party to it, and Iran has lived up to it. There are other countries that are not parties to it. Israel, for example, is not a party to it and has a huge nuclear weapons system, and the U.S. protects it. Pakistan is not a party to it. Its nuclear weapon system was developed with the support of the United States. India is not part of it.
Right.
It has an enormous nuclear weapon system supported by the United States.
Would you argue that Iran having nuclear weapons would be a good thing?
I don't think anyone would have nuclear weapons, including the United States. But that's not the issue. If Iran's alleged noncompliance with the NPT is an issue, and I add alleged, that certainly doesn't require sanctions or a treaty or any other actions.
Now, I know you've said before that the U.S. had no right to sanction Iran in the first place, but why not? The UN also imposed sanctions. And again, I know you're arguing that Iran may not have violated the NPT, but others argue that it did, that it's gone too far with its enrichment.
If it did, fine. Yeah. Then those countries, first of all, it's primarily the United States. The others are rather mild. But if countries are opposed to violation of the NPT, then fine, let's turn to the major violators, Israel, Pakistan, and India. I don't think anyone ought to have nuclear weapons, but notice that the analysis of U.S. intelligence is pretty reasonable. There's nothing Iran could do with a nuclear weapon except as a deterrent. And there are two countries in the region that do not want Iran to have a deterrent. The two countries that freely use force and violence in the region, primarily the United States, secondarily Israel.
But there are a lot more. There are a lot more countries in the world that don't want Iran.
I say these are the major ones. These are the major ones by far. Look, there are plenty of countries that are ugly and do ugly things, but take a look at the scale. There's no countries that rampage to anything like that extent. Furthermore, the U.S. is quite open about it. Just in the last few days, the Ashton Carter, commentators like Thomas Friedman, our ambassador Samantha Power, have stated quite openly that if we choose, we will use force against Iran. There is something called the United Nations Charter, which bars the threat or use of force in international affairs. But U.S. political leaders and leading commentators across the board say we're not bound by that.